So is everyone recording? Are we ready to do the podcast? Are we doing a podcast?
I have one more bite of the sandwich. Let me get that down real quick.
Just horse that down. What kind of sandwich is it, Billy?
A breakfast sandwich?
Like
It's
from a
like
gas station or
No, it was a frozen one.
Okay.
The croissant with sausage, egg, and cheese.
Billy was
This is
nice enough
delicious.
to make me coffee before the podcast, so I won't get all drowsy and stupid.
I walked out into the living room and he was asleep on the couch. Alright, this is the chicken wars we're doing, right?
The chicken war, indeed.
I usually pull up the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, that's always a good place to start. That's where I start all my research. Like I do go deeper than just basically just reading the Wikipedia page, because I feel like if I did that, I'd be hard to call myself a researcher. Um, yeah, that's pretty much how I start researching every episode.
Everything that's coming up is the chicken sandwich wars.
So you want to go to, I think it's the chicken tax is what you really want to
No,
Google?
no, 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 no. I wanna call an audible here. I think maybe we should do today's podcast on the chicken sandwich wars.
It's a tariff on trucks.
I don't even know what the chicken sandwich wars are, so...
Well, it was like when Popeyes made their chicken sandwich, and then every competitor was like, "We have the best chicken sandwich."
Oh, isn't that still kind of happening right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, because Taco Bell just introduced the chicken sandwich taco or something, which I gotta say...
Yeah, what was your opinion?
I just found it a bit lacking. What did you think?
So, I had two of them.
Uh-huh.
The first one I
Same.
got, fucking bomb. Like, I was like, yo, this is pretty good, but overpriced. It was like $2.50 for this tiny thing.
That's why I think it's lacking, is because if it was bigger, then I'd be a little bit happier with it, I think. But
Definitely. But it wasn't bad. Like, that first one I got, I was like, this is pretty good, actually. The second one I got was fucking terrible. Like...
that's
not
the problem
worth
with fast
$2.50.
food, is that I feel like it's hit and miss a lot. Like, even sometimes the same location. Like, generally, I feel like the same location you can kind of count on, like, a certain standard, but, like,
Yeah.
it can be really, you go to the one across town versus the one that's closer to you or whatever, and, like, it can make a huge difference in, like, the actual quality of the product or whatever you're receiving, or just the time, I guess, too, because I feel like if you go during, like, a super rush time, you'll get, like, those fries that are, like, clearly, like, maybe they took them out a little too soon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that happens. Just fast food. I definitely think the spicy version of the chicken sandwich taco was the better way to go.
Oh, that's all I tried.
Yeah, the regular one was just a little too plain, but the spicy one, you get the jalapeno on there, and that definitely kicks it up a little bit. Kick it up a notch, or whatever the line is.
Bam.
Yeah.
No, I'm a spicy boy. It's everything. If there's an option for spicy or not spicy, I'm going spicy always. Like,
yeah, for sure. I feel like part of it is maybe my taste buds have just been ruined, but yeah, I feel like a lot of regular stuff is just kind of bland.
yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah. Anyway, I guess we have successfully derailed the podcast to be a discussion on chicken sandwiches now.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're
Still
keeping
in-
all
I will
that
have
in
to
there.
say, if you want an interesting story, look into the life and times of the one and only Colonel Sanders, because like he had a pretty astonishing. He had like a Breaking Bad kind of upbringing. I'm pretty sure he like killed the guy over a billboard or some nonsense.
Jeez.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Some crazy shit. Yeah. So
Are you saying that Colonel Sanders might have been the actual inspiration for the dude who runs Los Pollos Hermanos in Breaking Bad?
Oh shit! Is that actually a thing? Is that?
Oh yeah, it's a big point in the show.
Yeah, but is that actually a one-to-one reference?
I don't.
No, I
think
doubt
so.
it.
I just it popped into my head when you said he had a Breaking Bad upbringing.
The funny thing about fucking KFC, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but in Japan, that's like the traditional Japanese Christmas dinner
I've heard
is KFC.
about that.
I've heard of
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a huge deal apparently. And they dress up like people will dress up like Colonel Sanders in a Santa suit. And it's just like a normal thing. It's like,
my
it's a
gosh.
big part of Japanese Christmas culture is KFC for whatever reason.
I
It's
saw an
super neat.
interview, just like randomly saw an interview with like one of the Japanese heads or whatever of KFC, however that worked out.
Yeah.
Like, and they were talking to him because I guess he was the guy who was responsible for doing the whole like Christmas marketing thing, and they were like interviewing him. Was an interview that was done, I guess, relatively recently. I don't know how recent. I don't even know if the guy's still alive or not or whatever, because he seemed pretty old in the interview. But like, he was talking about like how he had been interviewed, years and years before by some Japanese media outlet when they were doing the whole Christmas thing, and they're like, is this like really like an American tradition like this? And he's like, oh yes, absolutely. He's like, so I lied a little bit or something. Like,
hell yeah.
You gotta lie to sell the chicken, man.
I'm wondering, we could almost just do a whole other episode on why Japan celebrates Christmas.
Yeah?
I guess that's a fair point, too. The fact that they celebrate a very non-Christian nation celebrates a very Christianized holiday. I mean, I know Christmas has its origin and other stuff, but it's obviously...
It's gone full circle. It's gone... It went from pagan to monotheism to, I guess, materialist.
Capitalism.
Hey, people
Like,
just
like Christmas is straight up just a capitalist holiday.
Well,
it's like Valentine's Day,
I
right?
think people
like,
just like to party in the winter, really, honestly.
I mean, well, that was the original, right? The pagan holiday was like, hey, we made it another year without dying, so they would like have orgies and get drunk. It's fucking great.
Celebrate good times.
Exactly.
So if let's say I'm
Real
a
folk.
Japanese businessman and I've got an American girlfriend and I want to get her a pickup truck, and I've gotten it special decaled with like a KFC waifu with a Colonel Sanders face. Like, how hard would it be to get that truck over to my American girlfriend? Do you think you could do that for me?
The segue into the chicken tax.
Yeah, I wasn't
That's
sure
a pretty good
that...
segue.
I mean...
But we haven't introduced ourselves.
Sure.
Wait, what's the chicken tax?
The chicken tax is what we're talking about today.
The chicken war.
I thought.
What's
The
up,
chicken
guys?
war.
It's your boy, Willy Wanker, here with another Kakistocracy podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the chicken tax that affected America and other countries around the... well, okay, Pelican, introduce yourself, boys.
I was gonna do a Willy Wanker introduction this time.
I didn't want to do the...
You took my thunder.
I didn't want to spoil the...
Hold on, I'm gonna
It's
try
not
my
that you
best.
don't actually know what year it was happening. You're just gonna let me do it. Is that all?
1961 to 1964.
Exactly.
No, I have
Yeah,
the page. I
bitch.
have the page up. I was going to say
Okay.
1960s.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna do my best Willy Wanker introduction. Are you ready for this?
Go on.
I
go
didn't
on.
want to spoil
What's up,
it.
guys? This your boy BitPixel, also known as Willy Pixel, here with another Kakistocracy episode. Today we're talking about the Chicken War, which took place between 1961 to 1964. See, I did it better than you. I put the pause before 64.
I don't think you did.
Let me just slide in here. What's up, boys? It's your man, a guy, whatever, can't do this right. Pelican, also known as Paul, or Willykin Dude, here to talk about chickens and taxes and tariffs. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Willy Wanker's meme stream.
Okay, so what we actually
Fuck yeah,
need
dude.
is
Like, comment, subscribe.
we need a regular cars intro. So the 1961 American chicken tax has an 8.5 2.5 liter 6-cylinder straight six running on prime platinum distributed differentials. The chicken tax corners with the ferocity of a literature metaphor lost in our modern, postmodern, counterculture Twitter argument.
Not to
Fart-
derail
fart
again
joke.
before we've even started, but straight up, I think regular car reviews, it's the best YouTube channel.
Best YouTube channel,
Like,
for sure.
he
for
is
sure.
so
And every
fucking
Monday.
good.
They post every Monday. How do they do it?
But they're all just so well written and so well researched, and his voice is just a mwah. It's a chef's kiss on the ears. Like,
Good,
Always
good,
delighted to
good
see a new
stuff.
regular car.
I'm sure they have a well, let's not okay.
All right, chicken tax.
You know what? Fuck regular cars. I'm gonna put them on blast. Stop using so much goddamn warp stabilizer, alright? I know I do it too, but like stop giving the game away.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Chicken tax.
Okay. So, this will be a little bit of a different episode because in this episode we're not following the story of like a particular dude as he goes about his life and like does things in government. We're kind of jumping into a story.
Are you
that's
abandoning are you saying we're abandoning great man theory?
I mean, not entirely. We're definitely going to still do more of those, but we are just talking about a situation that happened rather than, you know, I guess you could say not great man theory is what we cover on this show. Silly man theory.
Cackman theory.
Cackman. That's good.
Paku?
No,
Flat-
Cack. The name of the podcast.
No, the name of okay.
So-
Kakistocracy?
So, this is about the Chicken War, which, unlike the Great Emu War, does not involve the military defeat of American soldiers at the hands of flightless birds. So, sorry about that one. I just thought I'd get it out of the way real quick here.
Honestly, now I think the next episode should be the Emu Wars.
It could be, but it's... I don't know. I mean, you could do... I feel like if we were to do it, we could make it more interesting, because I've seen a million things on the Emu War, and, like, I guess maybe I'd focus on maybe the government's actual, like, response to it or something, rather than, like, the story of, like, those 3 Australian soldiers just messing around in the outback with machine guns.
You know,
I don't know.
I've met an emu. They're you know, they're pretty cool. I wouldn't want to hurt one.
I'd want to hurt one if it kept like eating all of my crops and I was starving, I guess. So
Oh yeah,
don't know.
I guess that would be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. But the chicken war is actually a trade war.
The chicken tax.
The chicken tax is part of the chicken war, yes.
Okay.
But it's a trade war that's fought between the United States and several European countries, mostly focusing on France and Western Germany, from 1961 to 1964, or also theoretically to this day, because parts of this are ongoing, which is just great.
Huh. Let's learn about it.
Let's learn about history, guys. Whoa!
G.I. Joe.
So, like many wars, yeah, this one has many unforeseen trickle-down effects, and as I said, some of them are still very apparent to this day. And the most dramatic of these effects, confusingly, is its current effect on the American automobile market. Again, this allegedly, anyway, started with chickens, so it's interesting how we got there. Now, you can find the cause of many wars in wars that came before, right? But in the case of the Chicken War, you can trace it back to World War II. I know that World War II was an actual war and the Chicken War is a trade war, but, you know, just roll with it. So, let's say...
Wait, World War II had consequences beyond, like, just... I thought just, like, America won and that was it, right? Isn't that what we said last time, is that World War II is the end of history? Apparently,
there was some stuff afterwards. This is the first thing I've found that specifically seems to come as a result of stuff that happened in World War II, but it's possible other parts of modern society are directly affected by that as well, but I'll have to keep digging into that. So, let's say you need to feed, like, a lot of people. And maybe that's a problem that's being exacerbated by the fact that a large percent of the workforce has gone away to, like, fight a war across multiple continents and oceans. Mm-hmm. And then a different large part of your workforce now works in factories to make bombs, bullets, trucks, ships, airplanes, you know, guns, etc. That other group needs to fight the wars across multiple continents and oceans. So you still have to feed all these people, but they're not around to like actually work on the farm anymore. So what do you do?
Invent Soylent Green so you can turn the dead people into usable food.
Okay, we got one vote for Soylent Green. Dylan, what's your option?
Immigrants?
Immigrants?
Immigrant labor?
What if we just took those immigrants and moved them? We could have them do the war for us, and then we tell them that they can be citizens once it's over, and then maybe we do that and maybe we don't. Anyway, so one option is when all the employees are choosing the factory over the farm is to turn the farm into a factory.
Oh, of course.
Industrialized food production. Yeah. So it's a great way to make like a massive amount of food with, less people than it would otherwise require. As long as you don't have certain moral qualms about what you're doing to the food in the process.
Allegedly designed by autistic people.
Whatever do you mean?
I'm not sure if I understood where the joke was going. I'm sorry.
No, it's not a joke. I've heard. I think that was something that Jordan Peterson said. Was that like he had interviewed a woman who designed the machines that slaughtered cows, and he was talking about how she was autistic. Now this was not a completely reputable source of information, but I thought it was an interesting story nonetheless.
Okay. I'm just reminded of the Monty Python sketch now where the architect, comes in and he's pitching the apartment block design, but it's actually a slaughterhouse. Sorry if that's, not something that anyone else is going to get, but yeah, that's a thing.
Monty Python's good shit.
Yeah. And here the tenants shall be moved down the conveyor belt here to the rotating knives. Okay. So...
So what was immoral now about the food production?
Well, it's just one of those, modern social or societal dilemmas. It's like either you have cheap food in abundance, or if you don't want to be like cruel to animals by keeping them in small boxes and force feeding them, you'd need more people to actually be like farmers and ranchers than whatever percentage of the workforce there currently is. And then the food prices go up because it takes more labor to make the food.
But then also with more people, you need more food.
Yeah. So this is just kind of one of those things where it's like, it was really like, it was already starting to go this direction a little bit, but then when the war happens, it's like, we need to make a lot of food. And like, also, we need all of your spare hands to be soldiers. So... Here we go.
It's an inevitable industrialization of everything.
Yeah. Unfortunately. But yeah, I don't want to like harp on factory farming too much, because it's just very easy to harp on and a million other people have done it. But yeah, that's also not the main point of the episode.
I will say, like, I'm not vegetarian or vegan. I cheat all the time, but I have certainly eaten less meat just because of how kind of like grossed out I am thinking about where the meat comes from. You know what I mean? It's just like there's something less appetizing knowing that like the animal suffered or like was like raised in a big vat of shit or whatever. Like even
somebody's gonna get laid in college.
Even the like the battery cages for pigs, that's like especially fucked up.
No, it's pretty bad.
It's like, brisket is delicious, which is like I said, it's like I cheat all the time because I'm a weak-willed person. But like if I stop chewing for a second and think about where the meat came from, then I want to like, I feel gross a little.
This is where I can act. If I really wanted to, I could pretend to act like holier than thou and be like, I've hunted my own meat, but like most of my meat that I eat is still from the store. So it's like, yeah.
I went fishing with my dad once, and we caught a bunch of fish and brought it home with us, and like ate that, and like there is something more rewarding about, you got it from nature and you killed it, and I'm a big
Yeah.
strong
And it
man.
didn't grow up in a small box for
Yeah.
There's
a
definitely
year.
a very different taste as well. Like when you cook a fish that you fished as opposed to buying a fish. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a specific taste to it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fish is like farmed now too, where basically they're raised in tanks, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like they're going out and like, I think when people think of industrial fish production, a lot of people think of like a boat going out and casting one of those giant nets, and they drag it behind and they haul it up, and there's thousands of fish, and that still happens obviously, but yeah, a lot of fish is farmed and just raised in like vats,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy.
Sweet.
Yeah. So anyway, back.
Industry.
Yeah. Fact, industrialization happens to everything. We need to
It's
figure out
the wave of the future.
we're currently experiencing the podcast industrialization right now. Just everyone's doing it. We got to figure out more efficient ways of creating podcasts. We have an assembly line of podcasters just making shows 24/7. But yeah, so back to our story. So one product in particular that was strongly affected by this industrialized farming was chicken. It might be a little hard to believe today, as abundant and cheap as chicken is, but chicken was viewed in the past as like relatively luxurious as far as meats go. I mean, meat in general used to obviously be like a little more luxurious, but like chicken in particular was viewed as like, say, more so than beef. And it wasn't like it was completely reserved for the upper class, but it was something.
Also, the birds I think used to be a bit smaller.
That's
as
also
far as
true.
the portions.
Yeah,
we've
true.
kind of we've juiced them up a bit.
Yeah, we got some roided out chickens that we're all munching on. But it was something. Hey, if we have roided out chickens, then why are those Taco Bell taco chicken sandwiches? Why is it like such a small piece of chicken in there? I want like
Right? Like, are they using normal, non-roided out chickens?
I guess at least that way we could feel good if that was the case about like, oh, these are free range Taco Bell chickens, but I somehow think that's not what's happening.
That shit, they're taking a tenderloin and they're like cutting it into fourths. Like, that's all that's happening.
Yep. But yeah, so it wasn't like it was completely reserved for the upper class, but it was something that you maybe had only once in a while, or maybe it was like your special Sunday meal after church or whatever. So chickens are generally more useful to most people alive than dead, because an alive chicken...
They turn bugs into eggs.
Exactly. They turn things that you can't eat into things that you can eat, which is pretty cool. I mean, technically any animal you eat does that, but a chicken can do it without dying, which is pretty nice.
We eat their periods.
Yeah, that is literally what's happening.
That is one way to
go.
put it.
Yeah, I mean, try not to think about it, but yeah, I did realize that at one point where it's like, oh yeah, this is actually what it is when you're eating an unfertilized chicken egg.
Fucking,
you know what?
Fucking
But
delicious,
eggs,
though.
yeah, eggs are fucking great.
Yep.
And like, that is the one thing. Now, here's the thing: is you think you can enjoy eggs guilt-free, right? And you even get the eggs that say, "Oh, it's this free range on the
It's
the
not.
box." But what it like? They still, with the egg production, they throw out all the boys. Have you ever seen the video of them with the conveyor belts?
Yeah.
And little
Yeah.
chickens on the belt, and it's just like, no.
All the dudes.
Well, I have
just-
to ruin eggs for me too.
Do
I
they
know-
do they just kill them all right away, or do they send them to like some
Yeah.
place where they can be fattened up and then
They're
like,
not, because it's a different breed. They're bred because
Oh.
they're like engineered the breed to be specifically good at laying eggs. It's
Okay.
more economical just to fucking, all of its nutrients would go to its sex organ
Okay, I get
because
yeah.
it wouldn't go to its fucking fat or whatever. I don't know.
I know with the whole free range thing as well, like, in order to qualify as like free range eggs, it's literally like they can still be in a fucking warehouse, like packed, But if they have access to like a 20-foot by 20-foot area of outside, it's like that's a free range chicken.
They have like a communal like
Hey.
patio that they can go out on.
like no, literally that's pretty much what it is.
That's more
the
than
regulation is
That's
not
more than I get at work, okay? So
We have some free range office workers here. They have a communal break room.
wrapped in chicken wire.
That they're only allowed they're only allowed to use it 10 minutes
straw,
a day.
the floor is covered in
Yeah,
straw.
there you go.
But there's still like a vending machine in the corner, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It still just serves chicken feed though.
There you go.
It's like a petting zoo vending machine.
Yeah, you put a quarter in and get a handful.
But yeah, so a dead chicken only gives your family
So
one good meal.
chicken be tasty.
Chicken be tasty.
Yeah, chicken
But
being a
like-
delicacy.
It's finger licking good.
So we've decided to factory the chicken.
Yeah, so we factory the chicken.
And what does this do? What does this do to the world?
So suddenly, like, chicken is a little bit cheaper, right? Or I should say a lot a bit cheaper, actually. Because it turns out when you factory farm things, you can, make it happen where you can make a lot more of it for less money. And then that means that you can then turn around and sell it for less money. And because it's, you can sell it for less money, which means you're selling a higher volume, right? So you're actually making more money than you would have made if you tried to sell it at that higher price, yada, 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 whatever economics.
And that's why you can get 12 different types of chicken sandwich at midnight in America.
This is very true. Yeah. So basically, the more chickens you have, the more work it is to take care of them, unless suddenly it isn't. So in 1946, when some factory farming was already occurring, right, because World War II is going on, 1946 chicken is 41 cents a pound in the United States. By 1963, these are just the numbers I could actually find, because believe it or not, it's not always the easiest to find like the exact price of food, going very far back. But I found this for 1946, 41 cents a pound, and then 1963, that price was down to 29 cents per pound. So that's pretty impressive when you think about that's almost 20 years later. So inflation's happening. But meanwhile, the price of chicken actually goes down from 41 cents to 29 cents per pound.
Yeah, damn.
It's a pretty substantial decrease. So even shipping it over to Europe is actually only going to make it 30.5 cents per pound is how much they were actually trying to sell it for in Europe about this time in the 1960s. So yeah, factory farming, which makes a lot of Minecraft automated farms look like they were designed by PETA. It allows you to raise chickens on an industrial scale, and it makes it all cheap. Or cheap. See, that was a chicken joke.
That's good. I like that.
So now let's combine that with a different technological development. So as far back as the 1800s, people were making machines that made other things cold. However, it's not until 1913 that we get the first household refrigerator, and even then it's obviously pretty expensive.
Okay, I just want to say earlier, this is why I didn't say 1960s. Because you're talking about shit that happened in 1913.
I'm trying to give background here.
Yeah, the focal point
okay.
of the episode is
Okay. I'm just saying.
This is how you build out content, and also give a more comprehensive lesson, right? I'm trying to educate our audience and give context to the historical event that's happening.
But if I had just titled the episode as occurring during the 60s, it would have been patently false, and I would have felt bad about lying to the audience.
I guess
be real,
so.
Though. That is bananas to think that a household refrigerator has been around for just over 100 years now.
Just over 100, yeah.
That's crazy.
And they're still super bad for the environment.
108 years, I guess.
Oh.
Lol.
So, even then, obviously they're pretty expensive when they first come out. Not a lot of people are going to have them, which is, even more stalled out because of the Great Depression. So that's obviously going to delay. Like if you're worried about, like, you don't even have enough food to justify really having a big thing to store it in, right? You're just kind of like, this is the food I found today. Like,
So yeah, there was a whole
God,
there was
yeah,
a
is that what it
whole
was like?
there was a whole
mean,
period of time where people would ship ice down. People would
there was
would cut
that too.
Yeah.
big hunks of ice, and there was a whole thing in New York where there was like there was a heat wave, and this guy had monopolized all of the ice shipping business, and like basically like fleeced all of New York for like ice. It was pretty like, yeah, but yeah. So
That's how we're
refrigeration.
gonna fix.
That's definitely something I think about that a lot when I get food. Is like refrigeration is something that I think a lot of like modern people take for granted. But yeah, it requires a lot of electricity, and it's a very complicated machine, and has an environmental impact.
Well, that's actually how we're gonna fix climate change. Is we're gonna ship the cold down.
Yes. We're just gonna open. Everyone's gonna leave their refrigerator open at once.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe no one's ever thought of this before, but hear me out, people.
This
Okay.
podcast is saving the world.
So, so however, by the 1940s, right, Americans have a lot of money from either being in the war or building stuff to use in the war, and also the country's selling stuff left and right because we're the only people in the world whose manufacturing didn't just get bombed into, like, pebbles.
Yeah.
So, America's making a lot of money, is the point. And also in 1940, we get the first in-home freezers, right? Because, like, before this, it was all just, like, refrigeration. And, like, maybe you had an ice maker, but you didn't have, like, a box that you could put something in to keep it frozen. It was just, like, keeping stuff cold. But if you wanted it properly frozen, you couldn't really do that. But now people can have frozen food stored in their home. And this is where we get, the development of frozen food. This, also arrives just in time for, like, television, so we get TV dinners right away. So, works out great.
Yeah.
So, obviously all this development is also applicable to the commercial side of things. And companies build larger freezer units to either store frozen foods at stores or distribution centers, or also mobile freezer units and shipping containers or on train cars so you could move frozen food vast distances, right? This is why I can buy king crab legs in Wisconsin, because they're not from here. And they also don't last very long. And I'm like over 1,000 miles from the nearest ocean. So, yeah, they freeze them and they send it to me, and then I dip it in butter and I eat it.
And it's delicious.
Yes. So, yeah, in short, freezing food, it increases the possible markets you can sell your food to.
Just an aside, I actually never get seafood that's more than a day's ride from the ocean. But
a day's ride, like on a horse, or what are you riding?
Well, no, in a car.
I mean, I buy seafood pretty often. I could not tell you where it's coming from or how far away it is. I'm just
It's
like,
probably coming from China.
I mean, yeah, I just am like, oh shit, shrimp's on sale? Yeah, I'll get a bag of shrimp.
It's probably coming from like North Alaska or like the Berings. I don't know.
It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's going in my belly.
If you get like lake fish, would you still call that seafood, or do you call it lake food? Because all the bars up here, on Friday they do fish fry, and you get, technically speaking, it's cod is the thing.
Yeah.
So it's still technically from the ocean. A lot of it's cod, but
Well,
there's
that's
also
that's a great
walleye,
question.
which is
Yeah,
from
or
the
like
lake.
catfish, right?
That's
Catfish
actually
is a
local.
lake fish.
Right.
So,
like, I
but
can't-
I would still call catfish seafood.
Okay. So
I don't know.
glad
I don't
we cleared
actually.
that up.
I don't actually follow that one day ride thing. That was just like probably something I read in a book. I don't know.
Okay.
So now you're just lying to people.
what kind of car was it riding in? That's the other. It's kind of like, are we talking like nonstop? Is this like a 6-hour drive? This is all very complicated stuff here. But yeah, anyway, we can see where this is leading. We're shipping food around. So what's like a really nice food that you really love to eat?
Lobster.
Chicken.
Chicken.
Is chicken one of those? Chicken is chicken one of those things we may want to freeze and then send to
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, would you eat more of it if it was suddenly half as expensive as it used to be?
Probably make a lot of sandwiches out of it.
Yeah, so this is basically what happens in Europe, also in America, but the problem is that it's happening in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So
Those filthy Europeans think they can be fat like us. I won't stand for it.
again, chicken was previously not something people got to eat all the time, so it's a big deal if now you can suddenly buy it really cheap.
If you let the Europeans have all that chicken, they're going to figure out how to actually cook something good out of it instead of just deep frying it, okay? And we can't have that, all right?
That is nuts to think that chicken was like a luxury, because to me, as far as all meats go, chicken's kind of like the bottom of the barrel, right? Just 'cause that's how I was raised. Like, we always had chicken because it was cheap.
I guess you have like stack ranking. You got like, I guess you have like the super not even meats. You got all like your spams and stuff. Then you've got like ground beef I'd put on top of that, and then probably chicken. And
Yeah.
Wait, so you would put chicken on top of Spam on top of ground beef? Or no, you said you'd put the chicken on top of the ground beef and on top of Spam. That's a lot of meat for one meal.
It's like a turducken.
Oh, what if you made like you could do like a binging with Babish, but it would be like a meat tier sandwich where it's just like all the different levels of meat stacked on top of each other.
I feel like he already did something like that.
Well, he did like the every meat burrito, I guess. So sure.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so chicken sales, they go wild in Europe. Everyone loves this chicken. In 1961, the consumption of chicken rose by 23%. So
that's pretty big. Yeah, that's a big increase.
Yeah, this was, obviously fueled by the low costs of the American imports. So
You gotta be clucking kidding me.
Oh.
So many chicken jokes in this one.
The estimate I've found for the amount of chicken being shipped to Germany, so it's about $45 million worth, or $411 million today. So it's like almost $500 million in today's money just being shipped to Europe just in chicken.
More money than we bought Alaska for.
Exactly.
Could you imagine? This reminds me. Did you ever watch the claymation movie where the chickens are like trying to escape the?
What was it called? Chicken
thing?
Run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
yep.
it was like based off of they stole a lot of imagery from The Great Escape. So it's like to the chickens, there's just like this Holocaust, this great mass death that like.
Oh no.
Oh,
and it's the Germans that they're going to again. Oh no. So yes. So, I like that idea of using Alaska as our scale of cost. This is about 3 Alaskas worth of chickens being sent to Germany. In 1961.
You gotta keep it meta. You gotta reference the old episodes.
Yeah,
they should have factored in the cost of the chicken when they sold the
Oh, so yeah, so American farmers and exporters are obviously very happy to be making money. U.S. government is happy because American citizens are happy, right? And European people are happy because they like chicken and they like to be eating it. There's one group that's notably unhappy, and this is the European Farmers Associations. You see, when you start bringing in a product that more and more people buy, it's going to undercut other sources of that product that were being produced at higher prices, right? And this can also have effects beyond just chicken. Because, like, if more people are buying chicken to have for dinner, then less people are going to be buying beef or whatever. You know, schnitzel sticks or whatever they eat in Germany. I don't know.
Pasta.
Schnitzel stick.
Gabagool.
I think that's the other member of the Axis in the European area. So the European farmers are not thrilled about all this cheap American food that is flooding in. And by 1962, they're really starting to make a lot of noise about how this is really ruffling their feathers.
Oh.
They try talking to people first to get them to change their purchasing behavior, right? Because that always works. They do this by lying to them. The Farmers Association in Germany claimed that American chicken was fattened with arsenic, which is untrue. Even in the 1960s, we weren't fattening chicken with arsenic. Also, like, how would you fatten a chicken with arsenic? Do you inject it directly?
It would kill the chicken.
Yeah, you can't feed it arsenic.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's how you kill it. You just pump it full of arsenic.
And then its meat just inflates somehow after death. Like,
puffs up. That's how arsenic kills you. Is if you have too much arsenic in your body, your fat cells balloon. That's a fact. That's 100% medical fact. I am a doctor and I can prescribe you medication.
Okay, yeah.
This podcast is endorsed and affiliated by the FDA of America.
Literally none of those things were true.
all of those things are 100% true.
The French guys, they're a little bit smarter. So they say that the Americans are fattening their chicken with estrogen, which is partially true.
Hell yeah.
There were some places giving chickens estrogen to help their growth in America at this time. I actually found one article mentioning it dating all the way back to 1949.
Oh, wow.
To be clear, they gave them estrogen to help the chickens build the fat. It's obviously not like they're like injecting pure estrogen into the chicken to make it like physically larger. Like they've got like a giant vial of it and like the chicken's like swelling just from all the liquid estrogen being pumped into it or something. So I say that because the French were saying there was so much estrogen in the chickens it actually was affecting male libido, and that's why you shouldn't eat American chicken. This was of dubious authenticity.
Wait, so you're telling me, because people always say like soy boy, but like the whole soy thing is like it's a completely different. They talk about phytoestrogen, but it's a completely different chemical than like human estrogen. So but like apparently if you eat chicken, there's a higher chance you'll get at least some estrogen. So actually being a meat eater is more cucked than being the soy eater, because soy actually is supposed to improve your sperm count.
I mean, these are all, French claims, so we should all
French
take them
tendencies. French tendencies.
Literally
again.
Every episode, fucking French tendencies.
Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Dude, I won quite a war.
We have to find a way to shoehorn that into every single episode.
It's not even shoehorned. It's relevant.
Yeah, why? How?
The French chicken estrogen, because the French are great people. if not perverts, but you know what? Every nation has its perverts because we're just anyway. Chicken tax.
So
when do we get to the part where we can talk about trucks? I want to talk about trucks.
It's very soon, I promise. Out of curiosity, I looked into it, and I also found a reference to U.S. chicken farmers giving their chickens testosterone around the same time. The French, they don't mention this. Imagine if they did, though, and they were like trying to have it both ways. They were like,
I actually remember hearing a thing that like girls, like adolescent girls, like their shoulders were becoming more broad because of the testosterone in the chicken. I'm sure that's 100% real. Remember, this podcast is endorsed by the FDA of America.
That is a thing with milk, right? Like,
I
I don't like now. Milk is one thing that I don't drink because milk is just gross to me. It's like pus water.
Okay, cool. I actually don't know about milk and the various hormones that are in it. Um,
I just don't like it.
I do like milk, I will fully admit.
Oh yeah,
So,
milk's fucking great. Well, it's also like I don't really like. My dad fucking drinks like a pint of milk every night. Like that's just
That
what
is
he's always
fucking
done.
disgusting.
That's nuts to me, right? Because milk is very fatty.
Milk is for
his,
babies.
but
his leg
Milk
was
is
once
for little babies.
his leg was run over by a train and it indented the train wheels because the bone.
yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
snap.
Look.
But like no, but milk for cooking is
Yeah.
fucking
Okay,
wonderful.
Cooking with milk is one thing, but just drinking milk and even having it in cereal to me is just fucking disgusting because it's just this white goopy fucking.
I mean,
Like it's
when it's like fresh milk though, it is really tasty. Like you fucking dunk some Oreos and then drink that fucking like Oreo milk afterwards. It's delicious.
I don't dig it, man. There's just something about it.
I've actually milked cows on a real dairy farm a few times because my cousins had one, and so I milked.
Yeah, I was
helped.
I was in 4-H too, buddy.
I helped. No, but like the milk that I milked went into the giant industrial milk storage vat and then was sold commercially at some point.
Wait, did you
That's pretty
actually
neat. That's
did you
pretty
actually milk it with a machine? Did you?
Yeah,
actually,
you
hook
put
up
like the suction things on it, and like it like it's kind of crazy. It's the whole industrialized thing we're talking about.
Yeah,
but, like,
I've seen them at the head shops. I've seen them at Spencer's.
So anyway, I don't. Yeah.
Because they sell sex toys there.
Oh, okay.
Come on, people. Try to keep up. Try to keep up.
All right. So the PR campaigns, they don't really do a whole lot to sway public opinion as far as we can tell. But what does affect the Europeans buying chicken is when the government gets involved. So now one thing that governments love to do is make sure that the corporations from inside the country like are making money, because like those are the people that like give them money.
Yeah.
Right? So
Wait, like it's some kind of Kakistocracy. Wait, hold on.
and specifically, a lot of countries are very protectionist of their farming industries. This is partially because food production is a national defense issue. And also just like everything in a society eventually boils down to food at the end of the day. Like even if you invent the iPhone, you can't eat an iPhone.
What is it? You're like 7 meals from anarchy or something like that?
Well, I've always heard it's 9 meals. You're 3 days.
9 meals.
72 hours or 9 meals from anarchy.
I was also going to say in Rise of Nations, the first thing you put down is farms, or at least that's usually how I open.
Unless you're the Lakota, and then you just kind of wander around, and get stomped out by another civilization.
Oh no.
Even people who don't play Rise are gonna think I'm just like randomly taking a dump on Native Americans.
I mean,
that's not true.
It's unfortunate that also happened in real life.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So I guess maybe there's like
I mean, technically speaking, I did win that Rise match where I tried to actually play the Lakota because everyone just ignored me because they thought I wasn't a threat until the end. And by that point, I had built up enough to, do the lame capital snipe.
That's the one with the stealth. Okay.
I remember yeah. So anyway, this is now our Rise of Nations.
Let's talk about trucks.
So, yeah, a country's economy ultimately exists because people in it eat. And the less time you spend worrying about your next meal, the more time you have to invent iPhones. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, the government steps in to help all these poor European farmers. About this time, you have like some early rumblings of what's going to become the EU eventually, and in the form of the Common European Agricultural Policy. Essentially, this involves agreements between European states to work together on agriculture and not undercut one another. One of the effects of this is setting price ranges on things. They didn't specifically set prices, but there was like a minimum amount of money that could be charged for particular products now. So even if you figured out a way to make something cheaper, it still had to be sold at that price. So for chickens, this was 33.5 cents a pound, or 3 cents more than what America was importing it at, right? 3 cents is 10% of the price, because I know that, like, in modern terms, thinking about something that costs 3 cents more probably doesn't sound that significant, but at the time, it was a little more meaningful. Mm-hmm. So, additionally, the common market imposes a fee that specifically targets frozen chickens. So that's like pretty much specifically targeting foreign production, right? And this is 2.8 cents a pound. So it's almost another 10% again. And on top of that, West Germany is still going to charge a tariff on chicken now of 9.7 cents. So the price has now gone up 50% due to policy making and not anything to do with how much it actually costs to sell the chickens.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, with the prices rising radically in just a couple months, as all these measures are being implemented in the fall of 1962, chicken consumption also drops. The U.S. chicken farmers who had sold $45 million of chicken the previous year now lose about $25 million of these sales. It's like almost 2 Alaskas. From the sales in the first half of 1962, before the tariffs are imposed, they were on track to exceed $50 million in sales. And again, this is hundreds of millions of dollars today.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In America, all this meddling in the chicken market is seen as foul play.
Oh, there he is. There it is again.
So many chicken jokes. I love this.
The U.S. government, I love it, even in the contemporary articles of the time, there are tons of puns like this.
Hell yeah.
There's jokes about, things being foul and, anyway, like pecking order. The U.S. government and Europe begin trading blows, trying to come to an agreement. At a NATO meeting in 1962, U.S. Senator William Fulbright derails a discussion on the use of nuclear weapons with NATO forces to complain about the hostile act of restricting U.S. chicken sales and suggesting that maybe America should withdraw some of its protective troops in Europe as a result of the matter.
Damn, dude. When you like chicken so much, it almost loses you the Cold War.
This is all Soviet ploy this whole time.
First, we get them addicted to the chicken. That was a pan-global accent.
So the president also gets involved, because of course he did. So from a Time article, I found this. After a recent visit to the U.S., Germany's minister Heinrich Krohn stated, "Everyone is preoccupied with Cuba, Berlin, Laos, and chickens." He said that he and President Kennedy had been corresponding for about 2 years, and about half of it was about chickens. "Ask not what tariffs your country can impose on chickens. Ask how many chickens your country can import," or something. I don't know. President Kennedy. So,
ladies and gentlemen.
So, I guess I should point out here there had already been a small tariff in place before this, and that's why they were talking about it for so long. And
What if the chickens killed Kennedy?
Done.
It all makes sense.
It's revenge, right? If he's behind the genocide of their people, like, has anybody seen? Did anybody check into Lee Harvey Oswald's, connection to the birds?
What if? Because the whole story is right. They're like, maybe there was some other shooters somewhere. What if they were never seen positively because they were actually chickens, and no one would have thought, to take a chicken in for questioning or whatever. There's like, somebody left their chicken running through the street here.
But the
And
question is, how does a chicken fire a gun?
uh,
Hmm.
just you
We
They
don't
may never
as long you
know.
did, I don't know. I guess
they wing it.
you'd be worried about. I
Oh!
was gonna say they just have to make sure it doesn't go off half clucked.
Oh.
Both great options.
All right, so the chickens are fucking with the Cold War apparently.
Yes. The frozen chickens. That's why it was the Cold War, because it was over frozen food. A lot of people
Ah.
don't know that.
This is like one of those things about how like globalization is dumb. Like the hippies are kind of right, and like we should just kind of get everything locally. We wouldn't have these like massive supply chain shocks if like everybody just like, you had a local chicken. You'd go out with your kids after work and you'd pick one out, and then you'd cut its head off and make dinner out of it. And it'd be a special occasion, it would be like a thing you did with your family instead of just picking up a frozen carcass of one that was made in fucking Vietnam and shipped over here on a boat.
Okay. So, yeah, so the US was actually expecting the new regulations were going to remove the tariffs, but then they ended up, raising them like 50% instead, so everyone's freaking out.
Oof.
So yeah, that was what contributed to the outrage. So finally, after like more than a year of back and forth in which little progress is made, in the meantime, Kennedy gets assassinated by the chickens, right?
F in the chat
What
for
if
a
the
real
C?
one.
We've confirmed that.
Because what if the C in CIA stands for chicken?
Oh.
The Chicken Intelligence Agency killed Kennedy. That's what I'm saying.
I
Damn.
believe it.
So President Lyndon B. Johnson.
What if it actually stands for Chickens Infiltrate America?
Oh, there we go. Nice. That's probably what's going on there. So President Lyndon B. Johnson imposes a 25% tariff on potato starch, dextrin, brandy, and light trucks starting on December 4th,
Oh.
1963. Yeah. This actually happens super early in the Johnson administration. Kennedy is shot on November 22nd, and Johnson's already doing this major tariff thing 2 weeks later. I think it means this was part of the conspiracy. I think
So-
that...
Why trucks?
Well, yeah, why trucks? That's a good question.
Why can't I have a little ricer truck?
So, yeah, you might be wondering where that came from, right? Because a lot of the other stuff seems at least somewhat agricultural. And the idea was to impose tariffs that should be of about equivalent value to the chicken that was being sold in Europe. I guess the closest thing you could say for light trucks, right, is like a lot of farmers drive them.
Yeah, I mean, you could put a lot of chickens in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
You could have
And
a big truck full of chickens.
And it's going to be a fairly cheap vehicle, right? Like,
But unofficially, around the same time, United Auto Workers president Walter Reuther had a meeting with Johnson and was displeased with the increased sales of Volkswagen in the United States. So based on Johnson's own tape recordings of everything that happened in the Oval Office, a deal was struck in which Johnson imposed the tariff on European vehicle production, and in exchange, United Auto Workers wouldn't strike during the 1964 election season. That's the thought, anyway.
Nice.
Yeah. So, following this, VW's sales in the U.S. of light trucks, that being, vans and pickup trucks, fell by 2/3, or about $10 million. It's almost in Alaska. The tax did not specifically target Europe, but all imports. And Toyota also ended up pulling their truck sales from the U.S. over it. This is kind of why there's this big, profound lack of competition in the U.S. truck industry for a while, right? It's kind of still continuing. So,
Yep.
It's a bummer too because I love a small truck.
yeah.
You do have to. I mean, I guess like you could weigh that against, the labor doesn't want to have to compete against, globalized labor, and it is that's kind of the shitty thing with globalization too, and with labor is like all of these unions fought so hard to get their benefits. Um, my father got a lot of, just he wasn't even in the union, but just by being virtue of working in that industry, he had a lot of benefits that were won by the UAW. But as soon as you globalize and X company can go and just like they can freeze the chickens, they can freeze the trucks and keep the trucks fresh because they ship them overseas.
Yeah, you
So
get your trucks and you put them
Yeah.
in the containers full of
Yeah,
ice.
yeah, because you don't want to. Nobody wants a stale truck. Have you ever been in a stale truck? Oh, ugh, oh. You want to drive in a fresh truck, one that's not too ripe.
Yeah, so American trucks, what are we known for? We're being known for being bigger and less efficient than their counterparts.
And now the F-150 is the lead. What is that? The most sold vehicle in the world,
I think it's the most sold vehicle in the United States, or at least the
or
most sold
just the
truck.
United States?
Yeah, I don't. There's no way that's most sold
Oh,
in the
no.
world.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I
sure
don't
that there's.
know.
I
a
would
lot
think
of-
like
there's,
Honda Accord or
yeah, or
Corolla or
Toyota
Probably.
something.
Corolla or something,
It's
or like
probably-
It's probably some Chinese car
It's
we've
probably
never
the
heard of. That's the
Corolla,
most sold
actually.
car in the world.
I thought the
No,
Corolla
Toyota
was,
Corolla.
Toyota Corolla is the most in the world. F-150 is probably the most in America.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was over 1.1 million Corollas sold in 2020.
Hell yeah.
That's nuts. That's a lot of fucking Corollas.
pretty sweet. And that, yeah, because American truck sales, is my understanding, don't do so well outside of the United States, relatively speaking.
Nobody
Yeah,
has
I don't-
roads.
I
big
don't
enough for
understand
them.
why they do well in the United States. Like trucks are great as a utility vehicle, but I live in the South, right?
it's
So
a
everyone buys a
lifestyle
fucking truck
brand.
because it's just like, look at my big old truck, and it's like, okay, you get shitty gas mileage and it's not fun to drive, like,
I mean,
but you can put
trucks-
shit in the back, like there's still utility.
just an aside today, I test drove a Honda Pilot as research for this podcast, actually.
We
well-
appreciate Dylan's dedication to the show.
Yeah.
But what was that? But it's fun you're high up. You have a lot of weight behind you. It's like a big toy. Remember, like, didn't you ever play with like Tonka trucks growing up? Like,
No,
trucks are
I
cool.
totally
Yeah.
disagree. I learned how to drive.
I think trucks are cool, especially when you have the opportunity to drive them off road. It is like it's really fun to just like
That is
drive
fun.
over stuff.
But it's
But, like,
more fun to
even-
just drive like an ATV off road.
And also, like, trucks are rear wheel drive, so they're actually like usually like a lot of like these trucks are really fast, and because you have like that better takeoff speed with having the rear wheel drive, and they're usually
you have
at
a lot
least
of
6
torque
cylinders.
as well. But
Yeah.
no, like I learned how to drive in a Suburban, which is for all,
Word.
all intents and purposes, it is a fucking
It's
truck.
a truck.
It's a truck for your
I
children.
fucking hated it. It was awful to drive. It was too big. It was too heavy. Like I know how to drive it, but it was not fun, right? Compared to now, like my last 2 cars have been tiny little coupes, and
Well,
they are so much more fun. And like,
I also
know.
learned how to drive in a truck, and
I guess
it
I
was a
can't.
piece of shit truck, but I still really enjoyed driving it.
I was gonna say, I guess I actually can't say much because my car currently gets worse gas mileage than some trucks would.
My
but it's
first
fast.
vehicle was a 1995 Toyota Tacoma 2-door.
Hell yeah.
And that thing was pretty fun. I missed that truck. But yeah, it was a stick shift. It's got that out of the way right off the bat.
Yeah.
That was a cool little truck. But that, again, little truck. That thing, I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if the overall length of that Tacoba was like the same as my current little crossover that I drive. So it was a
That's
small
actually
truck.
that's an interesting thought. Like, because one of our friends has like an old like Nissan truck, like one of the tiny ones,
Uh huh.
and that thing's badass. And I think I would enjoy driving a small truck. But when I think of a truck, I'm thinking of these like, you know, big ol' lifted like dually wheel 4x4 trucks. Like those are not fun to drive, and I've driven them. But I think a small truck would be fun. This is going way off topic.
No, this is
No,
on
it's
topic. We're talking about
small
trucks
truck.
now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
fair.
it's because
Remember
the government.
all those times I was like, I want to talk about trucks, and now here we are talking about
That's true.
trucks.
Because the government went off topic and they started the whole thing about chickens and that, and then suddenly it became about trucks.
Yeah. But no, but
Um,
I think that's correct. I think a small truck would be fun to drive. A large truck is utilitarian.
Yes.
Uh,
So-
or like, I mean, it's also it's an expensive vehicle, and like vehicles are very much about identity, and like when you have
They
a lot
are
of money,
expensive. That's always a thing. I always see these like fucking dirt poor ass rednecks driving like Raptors or something. Like they'd
It
have
is
all
weird.
of their wealth in their truck, which is
and something that
Very odd.
depreciates immediately. That
yeah,
can
like
be-
literally the
that
second
can
you
be
buy it.
destroyed any day by
Uh-huh.
like any manner of accidents or thefts or you know.
That's why I'll never buy a new
Malice.
vehicle. You always go used.
They also
'cause,
probably
like,
technically don't even. Yeah, they don't even probably own it. I'm assuming that most of them are just leasing them.
Oh, that's
at
true.
Oh yeah.
Horribly unreasonable rates, more than likely. So.
Oh,
Well,
that's
you know what
sad.
it is if you have a nice whip, there are probably some avenues in which you can use that to try to get laid.
Yeah, that's not helping your financial.
Also, like,
Fucking-
also, I think in some people try to use their car as a flex, like within their like business network. I feel like, you know what I mean. When you pull up to the office in a nice car, people think you're successful, and so they'll assume that you'll work well or whatever. I think that's part of like dressing nice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean.
I mean, I also, yeah, I understand like your car being your lifestyle type thing, or like being a representation of you as well. I've never thought that way about my cars though. Like I drive a fucking sports car, right? I don't drive it because I want people to see me driving a sports car. I drive it because I was like, that looks like fun and I like the way this car looks, right? But it is definitely a like, people compliment my car often and it is like, fuck yeah, my car is cool. You know what I mean? Like, it does feel good, but that was never like the point of me buying it. And I feel like that's the point of
So what you're
buying
saying
a big
is
jacked up truck.
What you're saying is you're a hypocrite and a liar and a narcissist.
How so?
That's what I'm hearing. You. I'm just fucking. I have nothing to back that up.
I
with.
bought that car because it was like, that looks like a fun car, and it is a fun car.
Yeah, but when you
I mean,
look
to
at
the right people, it looks.
It's kinda
fun
like
to
when
have
you
a
make
jacked
your-
up truck too.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. It's just a
it's
difference
kind
in
of like
opinion.
it's kind of like your video game avatar, because think about how much time you spend in your car driving around. That you like the way that car looks. When people see you driving around, that's what they're gonna see. I associate that car with you. When I see other Infinities, I think about you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I said earlier, cars are very much about identity. Like, in a way, if they weren't, everybody would drive Toyota Corollas. They would drive the most efficient, they would drive Honda Fits. And
But see,
I
but that's an
know.
interesting thing as well, though, because even when I drove like a Honda Accord, which I fucking loved, right? I loved that car just as much as I love the Infinity, right? And it was just as much like my avatar.
well, I guess you have to love the car that you're in, even
Yeah.
if it's the car that you have to have. I mean, I was lucky enough. My first car was I had the Saturn, and then, well, anyway, we're going off. We don't
Yeah,
need to go like
this
a
is a whole
recap
other-
on every car that we've had. But I mean, my first car actually that I drove, like I said, was my dad's truck, like mostly. And trucks be cool and trucks be useful.
Yeah.
Like it's sad that people do use them just to commute back and forth.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, we are so off fucking topic right now, but it
Yeah.
is an interesting thought of like literally the whole reason to buy a car is to go from point A to point B, right? And to buy a truck, you have some utility as well because you can like haul stuff.
Well,
To the
what's
right-
point of-
to the right
What's the point of
person.
clothing? What's the point
Yeah.
of clothing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But people spend lots of money on clothing because they want to flex. Like everything, that's what it's. But like it's an interesting too that it's like it's mostly on small trucks, right? So it's like I mean that's any like
Well,
truck
a light
that-
truck is any pickup truck.
Word. So
Yeah.
it's like any equivalent of even like a Raptor from.
Yeah, because those are all technically light trucks. Like a heavy truck or whatever would be like a semi truck or a box truck.
Yeah,
or something
sure.
Like that.
And that is literally something where it's like okay, it's to go from point A to point B.
Yeah,
You
that's
might-
just
unless
utility.
the only
you might
the only,
put the mud flap girls on there.
Yeah, there you
know.
go.
unless it's the Tesla semi, then it's also to look cool. And go from point A to point B as long as point A to point B is a relatively short distance.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah, just edit all that out. That was,
No, I love it. I love it.
like, this
This
is
is now a
content.
car podcast.
Kakistocracy.
There we go.
ooh, it's our side gig.
So so this leads to shenanigans. You see, the tariff applies to light trucks, right? But what if you imported something that wasn't a light truck? So Chevy and Ford, they're already doing offshore manufacturing at this point. It's not a super recent thing. It's been going on a while. Because it's cheaper. Because you don't have to pay people as much. But now, even though they're American companies, they have to pay 25% to bring the trucks back into the country. So they have an idea. So they manufacture trucks outside the country with only a cab and then a bare frame running back to the rear axle. And then once they get inside the U.S., they just, they bolt the truck bed onto it.
Hell yeah.
And they put it up for sale.
There you go.
This works until 1980, and the government
This
was
is like that. It's like you must first ask what is a truck? What constitutes a truck? Can we break a
Yeah.
truck down into its core elements?
if I ship you all the pieces of a truck, is it technically a truck or is it just a kit? Yeah. It's you have to get the government agency to you buy an you could buy an 80% truck. It's like the ATF where you get an 80% lower.
They
but
should
you
have
get-
to. They should have to ship them in as vans and then take off the old back
Gotta.
and put on the new back.
Man, you're not that far off of where this is heading. Yeah. So this works until 1980. Like I said, the government changes the law to stop people from just shipping in like a stripped truck. So Subaru, does the more hilarious version of this, which is that they bolt 2 passenger seats into the back of one of their truck beds. And
Yeah, it's
import,
the Brat, right?
and they
Is it the
import,
Subaru Brat?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, and they
They're fucking
import
so cool.
the vehicle as a passenger vehicle, not a truck. And this works for about 10 years, but this is also shut down in 1987. The government's just killing people's fun. It's like when you make a dumb law, people are just gonna find every possible way to circumvent it as long as there's enough motivation to do it. Like people want things, and they're gonna figure out.
You would have to just make it because cars are so. Like now, have you noticed how many people drive those crossover vehicles? Those cars that they're not quite an SUV. They're just like a tall car, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah.
Like,
A
but like
thick car.
we've literally like merged all of like the car classes. It's like multi-classing in D&D or some nonsense.
It's
where-
how the government feels the need to divide things into a bunch of categories so they can regulate things differently. But it is, that question of like, well, what really is the dividing line? It's like, again, I was kind of joking earlier about like, the 80% car, like the 80% lower. where, you buy these, for those of you who are unfamiliar, with the whole ghost gun phenomenon, you can buy these things called 80% lowers, right? And basically it's like a mostly gun, but you just have to like drill out a few holes with a piece of power equipment.
You're talking about for the lower receiver. Yeah, because
Yeah.
ultimately, you could machine a gun from scratch, or you could 3D print one. It's ultimately just a contraption, and if you're
So then
smart
it's like,
enough
where do you draw
and
that
have
regulatory line of like, if I sell you a brick of like metal, obviously that's not a gun, but like if you then machine it into a gun, then obviously that is a gun. And so it's, where do you draw that line between brick of metal and, functional firearm? It's kind of like that a little bit, where it's like, where do you draw the line between these things? Or like, when does a pistol become a short-barreled rifle, and why do we even have separate categories for those two things? Like,
Sure.
Anyway.
I would say, going back to the Subaru Brat real quick. If for anyone who hasn't seen one, the two seats in the back, they don't have seat belts, right? Have you ever seen one?
I've seen.
I have seen the pictures.
Instead of seat belts, it has two like joystick handles essentially that come up that you hold on to while you ride in the back of it.
Hell yeah!
It's fucking awesome. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
So
But I think that's important.
Did you do? Are we doing this whole episode just so you can have your like Second Amendment rant, Pelican?
No, that came up purely incidentally, and I could have gone on to it a lot further.
I get it. You want to sell people gun parts on the black market.
I didn't say that. Anyway, so this actually works. Sorry. So eventually in 1989, following the decision to reclassify SUVs as light trucks, many foreign manufacturers finally give in, and they build plants in the U.S. to avoid the tax. This is why we have Toyotas and Suzukis and Hondas and Nissan. Shout out to PK from last episode. They have
Fire.
Hell yeah!
They have factories here, so they can build stuff. From 2002 until 2012, Ford was importing Ford Transit vans manufactured in Turkey into the U.S. by installing seats in the back and then removing them upon arrival. In 2012, customs.
Wait! I just wanna back up on something, because you made the gun allegory earlier, but you know how people will get mad because like some people will call every gun an AK.
Uh-huh.
Well, by your same logic, you could modify any gun into an AK, so technically all guns are AKs.
I mean, I guess if you go by the logic of melting it down and reforging it into a Kalashnikov pattern rifle, then sure. Yeah. Technically speaking, any gun or just anything made out of metal could be an AK. I'm gonna roll up to work on Tuesday and be like, hey, is it alright if I park my AK in the front row?
Oh no, your
confused.
your car is at least like 30 AKs.
Probably. That should be our other unit of measurement. We have our Alaskas for value.
Yeah.
And we have how many AKs of metal do you have in just any given thing. I don't think I could get a full AK out of my PC. I don't think that would happen.
No, I don't think so.
So
PC is about a fourth of an AK.
yeah,
I don't know.
AK.
You're also
Maybe,
glass. Mine is more metal chassis, where yours is more glass. I don't know.
Mine just has the one glass side.
Maybe like a really tiny Krinkov we could get out of. Could definitely get a Makarov out of the PC if we melted down the chassis.
My PC is probably one PPK.
Billy,
Okay.
stop talking about your pee-pee on the podcast. We're trying to talk about
Heyo.
trucks. So the handlebars, I can ride my Brat with no handlebars.
We're not talking about the Brat anymore.
This is definitely our most side really podcast, but that's fine. This one was, it was interesting to research this one just because it wasn't about a dude. It was about just like a thing that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in 2012, Customs and Border Patrol shuts down Ford importing the vans this way. Um, and they estimated that Ford saved $250 million by skirting the tariff on all those vans for all those years. That's about 2 Alaskas. So, yeah. Ford appealed the ruling. It's an unknown number of AKs. I don't know how many van seats they stripped out that they could have then reforged into AKs. But we can give a rough number on the Alaskas. Which, I guess, funnily enough, Alaska's also abbreviated AK.
If they were smart, they should have had a minivan with an optional third row and made the seats interchangeable. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't know if they were smart enough to do that or not, or maybe it was just like they pull the seats out and they ship the same seats back over.
Oh my god.
There's only like 100 seats. It's just every shipment of these vans is the same seats.
Like the same seat has gone over the ocean like 20 times. Sailed further than Magellan.
Oh, so Ford appealed against the ruling, but in 2020, the Supreme Court decided not to hear the case, automatically defaulting to CBP's interpretation of the enforcement. So yeah, I just mentioned 2020. This thing is still in effect in 2021, the 25% tariff.
Jesus.
So for anyone wondering, yeah, the reason why we can get away with trucks being built in Mexico is because NAFTA gives an exemption of the tax for vehicles built in North America, which now NAFTA is the free whatever trade something association.
Thanks, Clinton.
Well,
again, though, NAFTA is also kind of notorious for like ruining the American auto industry. So maybe them UAWs had maybe tariffs aren't terrible idea, especially if you have a disparity in labor practices. I think if you're going, like, I always thought about it this way. I don't mean to I don't want to like have this podcast just be like giving takes, but just hear me out on this though. Like if you were going to decide as a society that like, okay, it's inhumane to pay below a certain amount or to have somebody work under like appalling conditions or unsafe conditions or whatever, then it's like, then you have to have that standard applied on any global market, like any like labor outsourced, or you need to have a tariff to make up the difference so that your labor can compete. But the whole reason why the work is going over there in the first part is because it's trying to compete, it's trying to drive down the price of labor. So it's like tariffs.
We need to do more wars again. You know what? That's the real solution.
I mean,
right? The
Yep.
whole global trade thing only happened because like everything's so stable and peaceful now. If we had more wars again between major countries, we wouldn't outsource so much of our supply chain.
I don't think that's I think we can have trade, but here's the thing is if another country were to improve their labor practices, that you could then release the tariffs and then trade on an equal playing field there.
Would we really do it for that though? I feel like it's all again just protectionism to a certain extent. I mean, yeah, like you would hope it would be to encourage people to not, I don't know, use slave labor or something. But
that's how it should be used. Of course, that's not how it's going to be used because we live in a, what's it called, folks?
Kakistocracy.
Yeah!
So, I mean, it's like your phone. Like, we're not putting tariffs on the phones, really, even though, like, pretty much all of them are basically made with parts sourced by effectively slave labor. Like, you have the poor lithium miners or whatever in South America that are, anyway.
So
what's the latest update on the chicken tax now with these? When will the trucks be free?
We probably never is the short answer to that. Like at this point, so actually most of the other tariffs that we've talked about have all been repealed at one point or another, or at least lessened. But yeah, the chicken tax, which is again what we call the tax on the trucks, that's still in effect, and honestly, it'll probably just be around forever. Like it might go away at some point, but it would probably only be the only reason it would go away at this point is if there was some large international trade agreement that was signed. Because
Aren't they doing those all the time though?
well, I mean one that was like specifically related to the trucks or whatever. Because like the reason why it's in place still today basically is because of, auto lobbying and, obviously
Well,
corporations.
Here's a question. Now the price of cars has gone up, right? So,
Right.
or the demand for cars. So if the scarcity of cars in America gets great enough, we might have to look at these tariffs and
See,
be
I think
like,
you're looking at this as if like you're a smart and competent
"Oh,
person.
yes." Well, here's the thing:
Um,
is out of a government. This is what I've kind of learned about maybe more recent events: is that a government under panic will begrudgingly do, the bare minimum. And if like people can't get vehicles, then they may look at like the tariffs and be like, okay, we need to be able to import more trucks because if not, then our businesses can't run.
I
If it
guess I
becomes
guess the
if it
question
it would have to
is,
become it would have to become that dire, but
it would have to be
um
extremely dire, and it would have to be like I don't know what it would even take because again, the auto shortage right now is really more of a chip shortage. It's not like an American manufacturing shortage.
yeah.
So I guess like if the other foreign manufacturers are somehow getting all the chips somehow, I mean,
Well, if that's where all the chips are made.
right, because we can't make anything here anymore. It's not allowed. Certainly
Chip
not
dip.
chips. The only chips Americans know how to make are the ones with salt on them.
We make
Chip
craft
dip.
we make craft beer um and
And we design iPhones to be manufactured in China.
Yeah.
That was always my
no
favorite
this
part. That Apple's done that forever. How they're like all their products are designed by Apple in California, manufactured in China. It's
Yeah.
like they're trying to soften the blow a little bit.
No, yeah, because it's like something they take pride in. That's on all of their packaging. Like
they have
proud.
that
I think it said
giant
proudly
donut.
designed in California.
Have you seen their like giant like doomsday shelter thing, the big circle
The big,
building
yeah,
that they're
the
gonna
big
it's gonna
No.
take
circle.
off and take the true believers to Steve Jobs?
Hold up.
It's a big donut shaped. It's almost reminiscent of the Pentagon almost in that
Oh,
it's
it's
got
Except
called-
some
there's
center.
no sides.
It's called Apple Park.
It's huge.
Apple
Yeah,
skipped
this looks
right ahead. It's
really
like
big.
I think that was one of the more recent. Well, there's your problem podcast when they talked about the Pentagon and how
Yes.
every world powers military was going to have to try and one up it by building buildings with increasingly more sides until eventually you just arrive at a circle. And Apple's just gone straight to the end of the loop there.
Yeah,
They're
well,
gonna
they've already calculated. Once you already know what the end goal to win is, it's like bidding $1 in The Price is Right. I don't know. That's actually not that. It's nothing like that at all.
Anyway, that's the chicken tax. Ta-da!
What
So
did
we
we
started.
learn?
Yeah, we started with chicken
We started
Uh,
with chicken.
becoming in like.
Or wait, did we
it
start with a
become-
chicken or did we start with an egg?
Oh shit!
Little Domino is person invents refrigerator. Big Domino is truck be expensive to import.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
And also, the egg came before the chicken because things laid eggs before chickens were a thing. Yeah, so take that in your unless you're a creationist. If you're a creationist, then you believe the chicken came first
Yeah. Checkmate, atheists.
because God was just like,
Really?
yo,
So
chicken.
really, the chicken and egg is actually a fundamental worldview question when you
Yes.
boil it all down.
Yes.
So there we go. Deep thoughts on stupid things.